Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our AMA, Ask Me Anything, weekly live stream on YouTube. My name is Brian Horlick. I'm a senior partner with Horlick, Levitt, Lella. Condominium lawyers extraordinaire, I must say. And thank you for sharing your lunch hour with me. We have a lot of things to discuss today, as usual. So, for those of you that are new, and I will say that the number of followers on the live stream chat has increased exponentially. I think the last time we did the AMA, there were close to 400 viewers, which is unbelievable. I'm getting too popular for my own good. But yes, we had about 400 viewers, which was great because, really and truly, this is the place to get up-to-date information, whether it's on COVID-19 or whether it's on condominium law in general. We're happy to share the knowledge that we have with the condominium community. So, as many of you know, and for the people that are new, we are doing this live stream on a weekly basis. We've been doing this since March of 2020. We started doing this when COVID-19 reared its ugly head. And as I said before, because the condominium industry, the condominium business is such a person-to-person business, whether you are a condominium manager or a board member or a resident of a condominium community, you're surrounded by people. And with COVID-19, everybody headed for the safety of their apartments and homes. People weren't going out to work. Everybody was isolated and, I guess, in a sense, lonely for if you're a manager, lonely that nobody could scream at you, lonely because there were no irate residents. But people were on their own, and we thought that, hey, let's start the live stream, and we can use this as a vehicle to connect with people on a remote basis and impart some condominium law, some legal advice, some updates on COVID-19, and just some advice on life in general. So that's why we started it. We continue to do it. We're in February. As I say, we started in March of 2020. Who would have thought that COVID-19 would still be here? Not only here, but on the upswing. And everybody is just trying to make the best of a poor situation. I guess we're all trying to make lemonade from lemons. So, as everybody knows, we do this Ask Me Anything AMA every Wednesday at 12 noon. We also have on our YouTube channel, we have something called Case Law Corner, and we have short videos, 2 to 3 minutes on important condominium case law topics, and we have those videos recorded by our associate lawyers. We also have a brief summary of the up-to-date cases, which you can find there as well. And of course, everybody knows that every Monday or Tuesday we send out a COVID-19 FAQ where we set out the latest, and I dare say the greatest, most up-to-date changes to the law related to condominiums and COVID-19. As we all know, that law changes drastically and dramatically, weekly, daily, hourly. We're lucky that since, the last change, there hasn't been really another big change other than those that want to fly into Canada at the airports, and we'll get to that shortly. So that's what's been happening here. We sent out recently our last update, and we had there 8 standout quotes to remember from condo cases of 2020. So that went out in one of our FAQ blasts. I'm going to go through some of those quotes today. They're pretty good, and you can learn a little something about how the judges view certain types of cases. And we also have, of course, the lockdown order that we're all under now, and the stay-at-home order, and order after order is enough to make somebody Crazy. All right. So we do have here an active board of comments and questions, as we expect to have in the condominium business. I will also say that the vaccinations are coming out. The shots are coming out and people are starting to get them. I know a number of people, first responders, have gotten their second shots already. The government continues to work on providing the vaccines to the people as they roll it out, although it's rolling pretty darn slow. Some might say almost as slow as it takes for some lawyers to return their calls. But I don't think it's that slow. All right. So let's go here. First of all, we're going to just do a quick summary before we get into our question and answers. We're going to do a quick summary on where we are with the law. So as everybody knows, we're in a lockdown. We're what's called the gray zone, where basically nothing is open except for pharmacies and food stores, doctor offices. We have a number of rules that are part and parcel of the lockdown. Very importantly, of course, is that all lockdown rules are subject to the advice and recommendation of the health authorities. And of course, that means minimum distance of 2 meters between people, obligations to wear face coverings or face masks on the indoor areas. That's part and parcel of the legislation. Gatherings for people, indoor gatherings are now prohibited other than within your own family group, your only family household, other than for people that are living on their own. Otherwise, there's a prohibition on family gatherings or visitors. So that's part and parcel of what we have here. As far as visitors to condos, there's a kibosh on that. There's no visitors other than those that are exempted from what's called the stay-at-home order. So we all know stay at home. Everyone must stay at home. You have to work remotely, unless, of course, you're required and needed for your business. And, of course, property managers who are working off-site, would be required to work at their business or in the condos at least part of the time, because there's certain things that must be done on site, such as attending to emergencies, and certain issues that cannot be done off-site at a home office. There's also additional rules for the City of Toronto, where if there's 2 confirmed COVID cases within a period of 14 days, the public health authorities have to be notified. So there's a whole legislation around that. We know as far as businesses that can remain open, those are, of course, short-term rentals. However, those rentals can only be provided to individuals in need of housing. And your guess is as good as my guess as to what that means. I think that short-term rentals being what they are, it would have been much preferred had the legislation said that there are no short-term rentals, as opposed to short-term rentals are prohibited except for those in need of housing. You can be a better guess, or make a better guess than I can what that means. Businesses that can stay open, we all know: snow clearing, landscaping, security services at the condos. Real estate agents can't have open houses, but they can show units by way of appointment. Property management, of course, is an essential service, and that remains open. We get a number of questions now on renovations within condominiums. Specifically, can owners continue or begin renovations, construction within their units? The law is clear that only those renovations that were started before January the 12th can continue. As far as common element repairs, the law, of course, is not exactly as clear as you might want it to be, but the law seems to indicate that, again, if the work was started before January the 12th for common element areas, you can continue them. However, again, it's not clear. Certainly if the construction matters related to necessary repair projects, that could continue. Cosmetic projects, there's a question whether they could or should continue. As we all know, all the indoor recreational facilities must remain closed, and as I've spelt that before, I'll spell it again. C-L-O-S-E-D, closed. That means closed, and it doesn't mean open. As far as outdoor gatherings, maximum outdoor gathering is 5 people. That's what you've got as far as your stay-at-home order, as far as your lockdown is concerned. Otherwise, things are really great. So let's go to some questions here. Catherine Barbolini, I've mentioned her before, and I'll mention her again. If she wasn't a condo manager, she'd be a condo lawyer for sure, because what condo lawyers have forgotten, she still remembers. She does a great job. If you ever have an opportunity to meet Catherine Barbolini, let's say at an ACMO CCI condo conference where she has her badge on, where we are all being able to go there and communicate and talk to each other without the fear of respiratory droplets, and she has her name tag on, go over and say hello. So, we have a number of questions here. I've got we're on the Q&As. We're going to go to some questions here. We have Mr. Stavis here as well. He's a regular viewer. Good afternoon, Brian. Thanks to HLD for hosting the AMA. Harlan, you're very welcome. Harlan is a hard-working condo director. William Bloxham, thanks for doing these sessions, very informative. Dorothy Wolfson, I live in a townhouse condo. Is it permissible for a townhouse owner to have his unit painted if the work did not start before January the 12th? Oh, Dorothy, you're killing me today. So the condominium, the legislation says you can do the construction, you can do renovation in residential construction if it started before January the 12th. So you're saying here, can we paint? I'm going to suggest that the answer is you cannot paint because the work did not start prior to the time that it was permitted. Now, the question is, of course, is painting construction? And I'm going to say it is. A renovation, it's a residential construction work / renovation. It shouldn't be permissible. I'd like to say it should be, but I would say that under the reading of the legislation, it's not. Next. Alan Rosenberg, not sure about my connection. Has the session began? Alan, the session has begun. I hope you're here and I hope you joined us. I could send my IT specialist over there because he is exempt from the stay-at-home order. And if you send me a text, I'll send them over right now. Paulette Forsyth, we're still waiting at 12:02. Okay, we're on. Dorothy Wolfson, there is a separate entrance for the townhouse so it can be entered without going through shared space. So Dorothy, I understand what you're saying. You have a condo. It's sort of, you have a separate entrance. It's like your own specific home. It's not a high-rise, so there's no common element areas that need to be walked through. But the law is that renovation can only continue if it started before January the 12th. So, I'm going to tell you that my answer to whether they can paint, my answer is no. And I'm going to tell you that we have a number of condo corporations that we do represent where, whether they are high-rise or townhouses, we're having the same questions. We have one recently where the carpets were ripped out and the unit needs to be repainted, and hardwood flooring needs to go on, and the renovation work actually had stopped for a certain period of time, and now the owner wants to sell or rent the unit, and the question is, is the renovation quote unquote ongoing, and even if it's not, can the person still paint? And the answer that we gave was no. Where do you draw the line? Somebody wants to paint, somebody wants to just install some cabinetry, somebody wants to do some other type of work. It's a slippery slope, but the legislation seems to be clear. Michelle Capilla. Hi, Brian. Thank you for these sessions. As employers, we have an obligation to report an outbreak. Does this apply to outbreaks with residents? So that's a real question. The City of Toronto sent out a letter of instruction to quote-unquote workplaces, and it was sent out to all employers as part of the Reopening of Ontario Act. One of the things in the letter was that if there were 2 or more people who tested positive within a 14-day interval in connection with the workplace, you needed to, as an employer, you needed to provide up-to-date information of this to Toronto Public Health. And the question became, is it 2 employees who are testing positive, or could it be 2 residents, or an employee and a resident? We looked at the letter very carefully, and we were of the view strongly that it was 2 residents testing positive. It didn't have to be employees. And one of the things we drew on was that within the letter, there was a definition for worker. And the letter in it said that when 2 or more people test positive, it didn't say when 2 or more workers. So obviously there's a difference between people and workers, and we said whether it's workers or people, they count in the minimum of 2. Now, next question is from Michelle Capilla. No, okay. Here we have WC. Are corporations required to have COVID-19 screening forms for incoming contractors and staff to sign up every day? There is legislation, or not legislation, but it's the policy of the health authorities. It's their recommendation and their advice that you do so. So the answer is yes, you need to have these screening forms available when people walk into the condo, when the workers walk into the condo. We have here the next question. Catherine Barbolini, the stay-at-home order expires in a few days. What is your feeling about it being extended? Well, we have the stay-at-home order. Stay-at-home order is going to expire on February the 11th. I feel it's going to continue. The cases went from somewhere close to 4,000 a day. They've gone down to $2,000 a day. Obviously, it doesn't take much for cases to move up again. I think that what the government is very concerned with is the capacity of hospitals to take care of people who are diagnosed positively with COVID-19. We certainly don't want to get into a situation where the hospitals either cannot handle the patients because there's no more room, or if there's no more room, they have to decide, who they're going to give care to and who not. So my feeling is that the stay-at-home order is going to continue. And quite frankly, from what I'm seeing from traffic on the road and just in general, I don't really see a great difference between people, the stay-at-home order and the effect of people with or without it. I think, pretty well, whether you're working at home or whether you're working in the office. The stores that are not open, they weren't open before anyways, and they were open for pickup anyways, and you couldn't go into many of the retail stores. So, as far as I'm concerned, there's not going to be a great difference with the stay-at-home order, whether it's effective or not. The point is, it's there to keep, more people, out of the workplace and off the streets, so there's less contact and less ability for COVID-19 to spread. Alan Rosenberg, he declares now that he's here. Welcome, Alan. Bruna, question. They better open those hair salons. I think I'm going to delete you, Bruna. They better open those hair salons soon. Your hair is growing fast. You're looking great, by the way. And this is not a criticism, just an observation. Thank you for hosting these AMA sessions. So that's Bruna. She is a great manager in a great building on St. Clair near Avenue Road. And I have to tell you, as a condo lawyer, sometimes you go into a building and it's awful and the board is dysfunctional and the management's not doing well and the police is a disaster. And other times you go into a building where the board is great, the manager is great, everybody loves each other, the residents are wonderful. And really and truly, that's the place that Bruna is working in. It's a place where you walk in as a condo lawyer and say, when people thought of the condominium concept, this is what they were talking about, because everything there from board to residents to management is fantastic. So Bruna, keep up the good work yourself. I will tell you on Sunday, because you're telling me that I'm looking good, I have to tell you on Sunday, it's my birthday. Yeah. And it's already started to be a melancholy moment for me, as you age in life. So somebody brought in a piece of paper to me today, and as a condo lawyer, it certainly rang true. It said, I'm reaching a certain age and I want a recount. So as we all know, if you are running as a candidate for election, and if you're not successful in your election, you want a recount. So when you're adding up my age, I also want a recount. All right, moving on. Dorothy Wilson, we answered her question about the painting in the townhouse condo. We said it wasn't allowed under the law, and Dorothy is just confirming that that was the decision that the board made. All right, Alan Rosenberg, he is now making a comment. Let's hear from him. Love the session, Brian. Especially resonant with me as I advise condo boards with their management issues. Your sessions are a wonderful, user-friendly way to stay current. Alan, thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Robert Buckler, also a noted man in the condominium industry. He is an educator and he is in the management business. He has also been an administrator in condo corporations. So Robert, we welcome you aboard. For renovations in a unit, if the renovation relates to a real estate deal, firm closing, can the renovation proceed if the renovation forms part of the conditions of sale? Mr. Buckler, shame on you, shame on you. No, they cannot proceed. You need to follow the legislation. The legislation says if it's a construction, residential construction, you need to have begun your construction in January, and that is the law. I'm sorry, Mr. Buckler, there is no way to amend the law through contractual clauses in a real estate agreement of purchase and sale. I'm going to delete you now for even suggesting that. Next, Jima, thank you for taking the time. Are cleaning ladies allowed? Well, the answer to that is yes. There is a specific provision in the stay-at-home order that for services such as cleaning and for cooking services and for taking care of individuals, there is an exemption, and those people can work and they are allowed to enter the condominium buildings and carry on their very, very important business. Thank you, Jima. Paulette Forsyth, also a killer condo manager. If a mortgage holder wants to gain access into a unit is that permitted? Well, a mortgage holder, I'm going to say that there was, from this example, there's probably a mortgage on the unit that went into default, and usually what happens is the lending institution wants to send somebody out to check the condition of the premises, and so they are not a visitor, they are not essential. I don't see under what specific part of the legislation they would be allowed, because again, there's a stay-at-home order, and I don't think that it's essential. I'd have to check very carefully to see if there's something in the legislation, but my gut is telling me that they shouldn't be permitted, nor should other contractors be permitted into the building. Paulette Forsyth wishing Brian Horlick an early birthday. Yes, I am still demanding, Paulette, a recount despite your good wishes. Anna O, happy birthday, mine's tomorrow. Well, Anna, I'm too polite to ask a woman her age. However, are you also demanding a recount? Because if you are, we'll put our cases together. Harlan Stavis, again, the noted troublemaker. He wants to address Bruna. And Harlan says, hair salons will be open in Quebec, in Quebec next week in case you would like to get your hair done. I wonder if we'll be allowed interprovincial travel. So what I'm understanding from the latest and the greatest in the news is that if you are going to be flying from outside Canada, and if you're going to be flying into Canada, you will have to land, I believe, at one of 3 or one of 4 airports, that you will need to have with you a document showing that you had, before your flight, a negative COVID test. I believe it's 72 hours before the flight. Once you land at, for example, Pearson International, you will need to have a swab COVID-19 test at the airport. As I understand it, you will then be mandated to go directly from the airport into a government supervised COVID hotel/motel, where you will be required to stay for 3 days until such time as you get a negative COVID-19 result. And if your result is positive, then you'll have to go, as I understand it, to a different COVID-19 hotel. So this is all coming out now. I haven't seen anything yet that sets out precisely this new legislation, these new regulations, but it's not something that I'm terribly positive about, but this is what's happening. COVID-19 continues, and the government is trying its best to have an economy that's moving somewhat ahead, but at the same time keeping a close watch on people's health. Now, we're going back to a question at the top of our list from Catherine. Repairs were completed just before the newest stay-at-home restrictions. On January 31st, the owner submitted a request to replace the flooring, noting that it was damaged by a leak. So, I guess the question is, can they move forward with the renovations? I'm going to say that unless something is health and safety related, there should be no renovations moving forward with respect to condos if those renovations were not commenced prior to the 12th of January. And so in your case, Catherine, it says here that there was a leak in the suite in December. There was damage to the drywall and the baseboards, which were a corporation responsibility to repair. The repairs were completed before the stay-at-home restrictions, but on January 31st, the owner submitted a request to replace the flooring, noting that it was damaged. Well, in the event you want to replace the flooring, it's not a matter of urgency, and I'm going to strongly suggest that it can't be done until after the legislation allows construction, okay, because there's a moratorium on that right now. Now, Here's a very good comment from Alan Rosenberg. Brian, have you heard of or encountered many instances of recalcitrant condo residents refusing to wear masks? And the unfortunate answer is I have heard of instances where, let's call them recalcitrant. I have other words for them, but there are a number of individuals who are refusing to wear masks. Now, I can't get into a debate on whether masks are helpful or not, but they've been deemed to be helpful during the COVID-19 pandemic. And there is legislation very clear that owners, residents, contractors, anybody inside the common areas of a condo corporation must wear a face mask or a face covering. There is a requirement for policies to be in effect with respect to that. So I have heard that there are in some buildings a number of people who refuse to wear the masks. What we have done for our condo corporations, we have made sure that they have a policy in place. That's important. And B, based on the lack of adherence to the face mask / face covering policy, we have moved forward with compliance letters with chargebacks to those individuals, and we will enforce those chargebacks as strongly as we can to quote unquote encourage those people to put on their masks or go financially broke. I hate to sound like a bad guy, but when you're living in a condo, one of the things that you agreed to do was to comply and to be part of a community and to be part of whatever the use restrictions were, whatever the rules were. You agreed to that when you moved in or when you purchased. If you were not prepared to comply with the condo governing documents, you should not buy a condo. And if you did buy a condo, you should consider an alternative form of living, because condo is not for everybody. Sophia from ICC, how are you? She's wishing me a happy birthday. Thank you so much, Sophia. Rudy Petershofer says he had a recent birthday. 63 can't be right. I'd like to join your class action. Stop the count. Okay, Rudy, I'm with you now. I am so with you. Stop the count. We've got to go on the internet. I feel somehow that this counting was fraudulent, that they didn't count properly. I want to recount, and we definitely have to stop the count because honestly, something's wrong. It must be in the math. Now, as I've said before, and I'm going to mention it again, for the people that are new, Rudy Petershofer mentioned to me, months and months and months ago about, how ventilation might have an effect on the spreading of COVID-19 with respect to respiratory droplets. And I had never thought of that. He sent me an entire report from a organization that deals with the testing of the HVAC equipment. And it was amazing. And it was something that I hadn't thought of before, something that nobody had thought of before, in brackets except Rudy. And Rudy, every time I see you here on the live stream, I think of that thing, the report that you sent me, and it was so ahead of the curve. It was a great thing, and I appreciated that very much. I want everyone to know that if you got good stuff, anything to deal with condos, anything to deal with what we're talking about, you can always email it to me, and I'm happy to bring it up at the next live stream. If you got something great, don't keep it to yourself, and do what Rudy did. He picked up something that was really smart, and rather than just review it and pass it out to his people and his managers at his management company, he sent it to me. I reviewed it. I discussed it on the live stream, and it was great for the community in general. So thanks a lot for that. Dorothy Wilson, Rudy, she has a message for Rudy Petershofer. My birthday is coming up. Glad that I am still counting. Well, yeah, Dorothy. I mean, that's pretty positive spin on us geriatrics around here. Apex Condo. Are repairs in the units after water damages occurred after the emergency order permitted? So I'm going to suggest to Apex Condo that if it's a matter of health and safety, for example, you have water damage and you can therefore have mold and all sorts of nasty things that are going to follow that, I think it's part and parcel of a water penetration. You can go and you can remediate in the unit. So this goes to a point that I have made for many of our condo clients. You need to look at each individual situation on a case-by-case basis. So you can't have broad generalizations. There's no one-size-fits-all. Something that may not be allowable for one specific condominium unit may be allowable for another condominium unit in different circumstances. So you need to look at the circumstances before you make your decision. So just going back to Apex Condo's question, are we all of the view that, you had water penetration, there's mold that's going to develop? Certainly you should be able and can move forward with a remediation of drawing up the unit and doing what you need to, but that doesn't give you the license to say, okay, I'm renovating the unit now. So case by case basis, very important. Next. Eleanor Bahiti. Hi, Brian. I joined a little late and I thought I heard you say in-suite renovations cannot proceed at this time. Is that correct? I thought maintenance and repairs were allowed. So again, the second emergency order, which is Regulation 7/21, sets out all of the legislation, and there are rules, and the rules are located in Ontario Regulation 82/20. It's rules for condos in stage 1. We're in stage 1, which is the lockdown stage, the gray stage. And there are no renovations, no residential renovations if the work started before January the 12th, 2021. So that's the answer. I know that's not an answer that a lot of people want to hear. Bob Gerard, how are you? Bob Gerard is... he's a world traveler is what he is. He's retired now. He's been on the board of directors at his condo building. He's been and continues to be on the CCI, Toronto Board of Directors. And because he's retired, he used to spend a lot of his time cruising on boats, on ships. But now he's in dry dock, shall we say, because of the pandemic. So he's just relegated himself to be a complaining unit owner. And I guess he spends his time now complaining to the manager, because he's no longer on his board at his condo. So he suggests that he wants to be a scrutineer at my recount. I know Bob very well, and he's a very honest man. He'd never cheat, never. But I hope he'll make an exception when he's recounting the number of years that myself and Mr. Petershofer have accumulated. Next, Harlan Stavis. Oh my goodness. I would like to stop the count too. After almost 70 years of being on this planet. Think about it. You don't want the big guy to stop the count. Let's all count many, many more years. Well, Harlan, that's well said. I can't believe that you're 70 years old. You don't look a day over 40. So that's great. Yeah, it's better to keep the count going than not. That's for sure. So let's go to a few more things here. We will discuss something that we sent out in one of our emails. And if you have read them, we had something that's called 8 standout quotes to remember from condo cases of 2020. 8 standout quotes. So I'm not going to read all of them, but I'm going to read some of them. I'm going to read you the best ones. So first of all, my hat goes off to Bradley Chaplick, who's one of our great associates. and he was the author of these great standout quotes. So Bradley, thank you very much. The first great standout quote deals with a condo where a unit owner brought a requisition for a meeting to do many things, including fire the management and fire the board and change everything. And this specific unit owner had his own way of doing things. And his own way of doing things was not to serve the notice properly and not to serve the notice to the entire building, but only to his friends. And the judge said the meeting was invalid. So this is a requisition meeting. It was a meeting that is supposed to be served on all the unit owners. You bring your requisition. If the board doesn't call the requisition, the unit owners can call the meeting. And so a meeting was called by this requisitionist, but again, not everybody was served with the notice of meeting, only his friends. The judge said that the owner did not provide notice of the proposed meeting to all unit holders, as it is required. That is enough to invalidate the notice. The owner failed to use the required form, failed to include in his notice of meeting the requisition on which the meeting was based. He also did not meet the mandatory time limits. Therefore, the meeting was not lawfully called, and the meeting could not transact lawful business of the condo. So that's what happened there. Interesting case. There was another case, Estonol versus Ycc 299, and the question there was, how long should it take to fix a not that complex water leak? Should it take months or should it take years? Because in some condo corporations, there is a tremendous reluctance to move forward when you have water leaks, and the board goes back and forth, and they're not wanting to spend the money, or they think it's the unit owner's responsibility, and they don't want to engage in the proper repairs. The judge said the fact that the delay in the case was much longer does not detract from the seriousness of water penetration and the need for more immediate remedial action, which I consider to be in the range of months, not years. So in the Estonol case, the judge said if there is a water penetration issue that is being brought forward by a unit owner or resident, the board needs to take care of this in the range of months and not years. In this specific issue, the repairs lasted so long, or not the repairs, but the decision to make the repairs took so long that the condo was ordered to pay $3,500 a month in damages for lost rental income, commencing 6 months after the leak was discovered and until the leak was fully repaired. So if you've got water penetration, if you've got leaks, you need to attend to it. You need to take care of it. All right. We have another case which is very interesting. It's called Beswick versus Condo Corp 1175. In this case, there was a battle between the board of directors who were living in the high-rise part of the development and against the townhouse unit owners, and the board was not dealing in an even-handed manner. The judge said in a case turning on whether the board's conduct was oppressive, the judge said the following. The judge said that based on all of the evidence, the actions of the board can be seen generally to display poor and unprofessional management. Their communication skills with the owners were deficient, their record keeping was poor and inadequate, and their adherence to the condo declaration bylaws and rules was lacking in rigor. In other words, it sucked. While the actions of the board may be considered to have come close to oppression, I am nevertheless not able to say that the actions were unfairly prejudicial and unfairly in disregard or oppressive. So in that case, the judge found that the condo was not acting in an oppressive manner, despite all of the shortcomings in both the board of directors with respect to their governance and their management of the corporation. So my question is, if you are managing your building poorly, if you are not adhering with rigor to your condo declaration bylaws and rules, if you fail to keep proper records, is that not oppressive? It sure sounds oppressive to me. And if it's not oppressive, then what could be oppressive? There's another case similar, which was the Amlani and Ycc 473 case. And in that situation, a different judge, came to a somewhat different conclusion. This was a case where there was a smoking dispute, and the board and management refused to meet with the resident who was smoking. The court concluded that the condo corporation acted oppressively in refusing to discuss the issue in dispute between the parties. So my question is this: if Amlani can come to a decision that it was oppressive for the board and management not to discuss an issue with a unit owner / resident, how could it not have been oppressive in the Beswick case when the board did everything oppressively and wrong? So I don't understand it. So these are part of the 8 standout quotes which we provided, which we sent out in our last email blast. And if you don't have them, and if you'd like to have them, you can send us a email and we'll send them out to you. Again, thank you to Bradley Chaplick for a wonderful job on doing those 8 standout quotes. Now, I will also tell you, for those of you that don't know, those cases, as well as others, are all set out and they can all be found on our Condo Law Corner, which is part of our YouTube channel. If you go to the YouTube channel, HLD Law, you'll find it there. Again, excellent cases which are summarized for you and with short videos of 3 minutes. Law can make you fall asleep, but between 2 and 3 minutes, we should still have you up and you should be able to learn something from the case. We have a few more questions here. Rudy Petershofer says, Brian, I have a great Harvard School of Public Health video and booklet on ventilation, filtration, and humidification. I'll send you. Frequent air exchanges and HEPA filtration are critical. So Rudy is he's sending me this document on ventilation, filtration, and humidification. I'm going to read it. We can discuss it the next time. And if there's something there that is of great value, as I'm sure there will be, perhaps we'll put it in our next FAQ. So Rudy, thanks for sharing with the entire condo community. Very important, the work that you're doing. Robert Buckler, he's back again. I thought we had deleted you. Robert, any anticipated impact on condo management and new condos, example budget, due to the establishment of the new Home Construction Regulatory Authority? Well, we're going to have to see how that is going to roll out, because usually when there's a regulatory authority, there are costs involved, and we all know that from the CMRAO and the Condominium Authority of Ontario. I can only assume that there's going to be further expenses involved, and as usual, the builders will have to pay the price, and they'll always download that to the purchasers / owners. So we'll see how that works out. Robert asks, where can I find the list of YouTube case summaries you and your colleagues have put together? The name of the case is not listed on your channel. All right, well, I can tell you that the cases are all there. I can flip you an email after, but if you go to the HLD Law, you'll find them. So I can provide that to you afterwards as well. Now, I will tell you, part and parcel of what we do is we read out our fan mail. And if you have something to say, positive or negative, we will read it out. So this is not just like, hey, send me something good, I'll read it. If there's something you're not happy with, I mean, it couldn't be about me, but if there's something that you're not happy with, in condominium in general, we will read it out for you. If you have something good to say or bad to say, send it along. So we have someone here who wrote. Now, we mentioned him the last time I did the AMA, and he is a regional manager at a management company. His name is Paulo Tavares. And Paulo, if you know Paulo, has a deep, beautiful baritone voice. And I was kidding around on the last live stream that we did that he'd be, with his beautiful voice, he'd be able to do a lot of singing. And because of the stay-at-home order, his wife has relegated him to singing only in the shower. So Paulo writes, he says, "Please add me to your email list. I don't get your legal updates. I will go sing now." So Paulo, thanks for sharing with us and thanks for joining. And if you ever have an interesting comment or question, we'll be looking forward to what you have to say on the Q&A. Here's an email from a Arthur Haxio. Arthur is with Andre's Management, and he writes, "This is you, my associate condo lawyer, Bharat Kapoor. I really thank you for tonight's AGM. You did a great job." Then he writes, "Brian should consider himself lucky to have employees like you." Now, I can't tell you how much money that's going to cost me in a raise. So Bharat is one of our condo lawyers, and he works with us, as you all know. We have our own software now. We are hosting and chairing annual general meetings, as well as owner meetings for sole purposes. We have chaired close to 400 meetings since we started doing this in September of 2020. And we started hosting and sharing meetings. We have our own exclusive software, electronic voting. We did this because we found that at the time, the list of software IT suppliers was small. We found personally that the fees that the IT suppliers were charging, in my view, were excessive. Some might say outrageous. And we didn't think it was right, in my opinion, again, to be taking advantage during a pandemic. Again, I'm sorry if people are offended, but that's my opinion. And so we were able to source out exclusively software that is fantastic. We, again, chair meetings, we host meetings, we use the software. We've done over 400 meetings. Everybody's been fabulously happy. The managers and the board members. We take great care with all the condo corporations to make sure that everything is done right, that the meetings go well. If board members are uncomfortable with software, we have special meetings with them. We make sure that it goes great, and it's doing a great thing for the condo business. We have another piece of fan mail from Olta. Olta is a condominium manager up north doing a great job. She says here, "I would like to let you know that Paras, who's one of our people here, has done a great job assisting us in the AGM. Your team is great, including yourself, Bharat, and Julia." All right, so this brings me to Julia. As you know, Julia is one of our associate lawyers. She's got a great condo law practice. She was gone for a year when she had her baby number 2. Baby number 2 is at least a year old now, and Julia's back. She's been back for quite some time. In the last few months, she's doing a great job for us. And I have been trying to encourage Julia to host an AMA, and I think everybody will love to see her do an AMA. But she tells me she's not yet ready for prime time. I believe she's ready for prime time. So if you want Julia, and you should want Julia, you should send me an email and I'm going to show it to her. So we need to encourage this young lady to come on and do an AMA. So send us your emails encouraging Julia to do an AMA. I want her on. That's all you got to do is I want her on, and send it in. Now, a few more questions here. Joan Elliott, noted condominium president. Our building has not done the dryer vent clean out in almost 3 years. Ouch! This is a fire hazard. Can we arrange to do the work? Well, this is one of those situations where you want to do the work because it's a health and safety issue. I can assure you that many of the residents will not want the work done because they don't want people coming into their units. I'm going to say that, properly speaking, you should schedule the work so you can get onto the list of buildings that are going to do that work. But I think that you should wait. If you haven't done it in the last 3 years, I'm not going to say that a few more months won't kill you, because I'm not going to say that, but why did I say that? I think you should wait just a little longer, let the cases go down as far as the pandemic is concerned. People will become more comfortable. I think people will be quite outraged if and I understand the importance of this, but I think they'll be quite outraged from a health perspective. You've got to really think it over and weigh that, but it is something that's important and can't be left for too long, which it seems that it has been. Alan Rosenberg would greatly appreciate a copy of what you're emailing to Robert Buckler, realist of case summaries. Much appreciated, Brian. Yes, I've got the cases. I can email the summaries out if anybody wants them. As I said, they're also on the YouTube channel, and you can see the videos and the summaries there. But if you want the summaries, we'll send that off to you. No problem, Alan, and anybody else. Paulette Forsyth. Now, here we go. She's a killer manager. She's a district manager, doing a great job. Thank you, Brian, for sharing your time and expertise. These AMAs are very informative. Take care and be safe. I will tell you on the QT, now don't tell anybody that I said this, but for those of you that are condominium managers and you have your RCM, which is a special designation to show your expertise, and it's a designation that is provided by ACMO, the Association of Condominium Managers of Ontario. You need to do continuing education to keep your RCM, and I've been told on the QT that if you watch my AMA, you will be eligible for continuing course credits. Don't say that I said, but that's what I heard. Now we have, oh, look at this. Julia Laurier has in fact chimed in here. Oh, she says that she'll do a joint AMA. She'll do an AMA only if we do a joint AMA. Well, I don't know about that, Julia. We'll have to hear what our people in the audience say. I'm waiting to get back the emails that say we want you, Julia. All right. Alan Rosenberg, thank you for the sessions. RCM 2003, thank you for another informative session. Have a safe week and a happy birthday. Joan Elliott, thank you, Brian, and thanks to Barat. Great resource. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's 1 o'clock. We have Leo. Okay, Leo, last question. Leo Alvarez, I complete cleaning of the clothes dryers this week due to fire hazard, and only 2 unit owners requested not to enter the units out of 172 units. Okay, Leo, that's a very good comment, and it adds some more content to what we were saying. So thanks very much. And again, if anybody has important points or comments, you're welcome to either email them in or go on the AMA as Leo just did. He sent in a great comment to us. JC, great session. My board for sure will enjoy participating in future sessions. Alexandra Homerson, happy birthday, Brian. Alexandra, you're very close to me, your building. I'm expecting my cake. My birthday is Sunday, but I'll take it on Friday. Bruna H, thank you, happy birthday. William Bloxham, happy birthday. Take the day off. All right, we are now at 101. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Again, it's a place where we can all speak, ask questions, get information. Again, the government of Ontario is coming out with a statement in the next hour or so on when kids are going to be going back to school. I hope they'll be going back to school soon for themselves and for my own selfish purposes, so Bradley Chaplet can actually come back to the office because he's at home taking care of his 2 kids. So we wish you all good health. We'll see you next week. Ray Shaver, happy birthday, Brian. Thank you, Ray. Bob Gerard, happy birthday. Sophie, thank you. Oh my God, Rudy Petersoffer, keep the numbers coming. Happy upcoming birthday. Dorothy Wilson, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next week. Again, if you want Julia Laurier, and I want her, send her a note. Send us a note. We want Julia. We need to encourage that young lady. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Bradley Chaplick will be hosting. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.